It's Wednesday, November 10th, episode 138 of the 359 podcast. Here's Ben and Roger.
Hey. Wow.
Oh, turn on our mics.
Turn on our mics, dude.
All right.
Hey.
Brian obviously also had a very long night.
Yes,
I don't think I slept much either.
I cashed in around 1 o'clock, 1:30, but
I cashed in at 3 after Trump's speech.
Yeah.
So
we're all a little tired.
so bear with us as we talk slower and are low energy Jeb Bushian.
I'm gonna try to go high energy. I'm gonna shake things up and go high energy.
It's a good idea.
Just to contrast.
That's
what
Trump's
you guys
America.
do. There you go. Look, we're gonna hope that he makes America great again, right?
Hey,
Because
I would hope so.
yeah.
So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna have a special election.
Yes, we can't
podcast.
ignore the election.
Can't ignore that it's November
Right,
9th.
we're gonna talk about Trump winning the election. We're not gonna talk about the politics per se, or really even share our thoughts aside from what Brian's doing right now. But we're gonna talk a little bit about the effect that social media had, the impact social media had on this election. For better or worse, it definitely helped fuel Trump's ascendancy. And also, like, how did everyone get it so wrong?
Yes.
Right? So,
Everyone being the experts, the
the polls,
pollsters,
prognosticators,
the media,
social media,
everybody.
everyone.
Everybody that makes it a profession to know this kind of stuff.
Right, which isn't us, by the way. That's not our job.
Not our job.
Although
Anyway,
let's get started.
let's get started.
As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick them out, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yep. All right. Go.
Welcome to the 359, where we talk about the top tech news of the day and all the other crap we want to throw in. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
If you're like me, you're a little tired from staying up late watching the elections. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll know that Donald Trump will be our next president.
Woohoo!
His victory defied virtually every poll and prognosticator. Seemed like even social media failed to predict the win. So, how did this happen? Why did everyone go so wrong?
I think there are going to be a lot of postmortems around this, and it's really hard to say at this point. We have a story out where we worked with a social media company Spreadfast.
Yep.
And they provided us with a lot of data around who was tweeting more positive stuff about whether it was Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. And it looked like Clinton was actually ahead in a lot of the states that she actually lost. So can Twitter predict an election? At least for this one, it
Probably
appears
not.
no.
Yeah.
So
It's just interesting, like taking it back a step, the role that social media, that Twitter in particular, played in this election. I mean, both Hillary and Donald were pretty savvy in social media, but Trump sort of took it to next level. You could almost say
very interesting.
You could almost say, in terms of like the incendiary tweets that he would throw out there, couldn't help but to command attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As I was listening to, I think this was the CNN pundits last night, they were talking about how this is going to be the first social media president, and a lot of presidents before him basically commanded whatever medium it was of the time, whether it was radio or television or what have you, or the internet for Obama. I remember was what they were talking about. But social media has become this dominant force, and it's interesting to consider exactly how he used it. He didn't use it as a professional politician might.
Right.
He did like tweets at 3 a.m. He lashed out at people, like regular people, like not famous people or anything like that. And
for a lot of people, that was what worked. That
on social media,
right? Because it seemed authentic. That's the thing. It wasn't just like this standard template Twitter account. I mean,
whereas you would say that like Clinton's Twitter account was, you could argue that she quote unquote did everything right with that. She had a lot of tweets.
Right.
She was really trying to inspire her base. She had a lot of nice pictures, whatever. But it was kind of like you might argue in retrospect it was a bit of a paint by numbers from a Twitter perspective. From a Twitter perspective, whereas he was like really like you were getting the unvarnished Donald Trump.
Yep. For a lot of people, that was good enough. Ben, you actually had a chance to go to the Trump election party last night. How was that event?
Yeah, so I was outside. I didn't actually get to be inside the ballroom where all the excitement was actually happening, but I got to talk to people as they were coming in.
Yep.
And there was a lot of cautious optimism early in the night. I was there from like basically 5:30 to 7:30, so I was still there a little bit early. I think Clinton didn't concede the race until like somewhere around 2 a.m.
Right.
But and the folks that I talked to them about social media,
Yep.
which was that was how they found like-minded people. That's how they shared memes. That's how they shared different things around, like their enjoyment of Trump rallies and stuff like that. So that was the glue that kept a lot of Trump supporters together, which was interesting to hear about.
So lastly, if you're not happy with the results, you're not alone. In fact, when it appeared that Trump was going to win, enough people pinged the Canadian immigration website that actually crashed. And Ben, you know that this happened the last time, right?
I think it did in
last
2000, if I remember correctly.
When W won.
Yeah.
So we're prone to panicking, I guess.
It sounds like Canada might be building a wall. So
we'll see.
So
using American laborers, right? Because we need the jobs.
Right.
All right. So for more about these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Thanks for listening.
First question: is he going to close the EDV Lottery System?
EDV Lottery
EDV
System.
lottery
We need
system?
more information. We're not political
What
reporters.
is the EDV lottery system? Is that the
that might
that's
be
not
an
the
immigration
refugee,
related.
Maybe that's a refugee.
I'm gonna have to Google
Let's
that.
Google.
I'm sorry.
Electronic diversity visa.
Oh,
So
interesting.
one interesting thing about Donald Trump is nobody really knows what his ideology is on most things. So he did get voted in as president, but it's still entirely unclear what his position is going to be on a lot of stuff. We know who Trump, the candidate, is, but now he's going to be Trump, the president.
We also know Trump, the businessman, has always been sort of a little bit flexible, right? He's donated to
always
both
wants to
Democrats
negotiate.
and Republicans. He's his positions have changed depending on the mood or depending on the context, and so it's really hard to predict what he's going to do.
Right. And again, watching CNN this morning, a lot of the folks on there were saying, look, he doesn't want to, why would he want to cave the economy if he has so much based in it? And maybe we have reason to be very positive about a Trump presidency. But it sounded to me like a lot of them were changing their tune because the experts got it wrong. They didn't expect this to happen.
Yep.
And maybe only a week ago or even a couple of days ago, they were like, how is this guy even thinking he's going to pull this off?
Right.
Or this is really, kind of crazy.
There is a lot of comments I can't read on the air.
Okay.
All right.
Let's try to keep the violence and threats to a minimum, folks, if you can, please. It's
What,
unnecessary.
are they threats on us?
No, not against us. I mean, except for that one guy that wanted to punch you in the face.
That's
we
cool.
got that guy back?
Is he back?
He's not back. He's not back. I haven't seen him in
I'm a little
weeks.
disappointed about that.
We missed that
actually.
guy.
Yeah,
we missed that guy. He can say he wants to punch me in the face too if he wants.
Ben's just jealous.
Yeah, I am. I need a face punch fan. So, but yeah, if anybody has any other comments or questions that aren't violent that they want to share, that sounds great.
We're happy to read some of the comments and your thoughts on the elections and the results.
And we're obviously aware that this isn't a typical show, but it's November 9th. There's no way we're going to avoid the fact that it was a huge upset election. And we
can't talk about Samsung or Facebook,
right?
But it seems a little relevant.
We kind of talk about Facebook and Twitter and whatever.
Yeah.
But,
Dr. Lumen promises he will punch all of us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr.
That's
Lumen.
really nice of
That's
you.
what I needed this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's really going to make America great again.
I might feel better after that. I'm a little hungover.
It'll be a friendly punch.
How late were you out last night?
About 2.
Okay.
You were out?
Were you at a
were
bar,
home drinking?
Back and forth.
Okay.
Did you was it back and forth and back and forth? Like, did you go to the bar, then back to the apartment, then back to the bar? Or?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great night.
One interesting thing that I want to share about going to the Trump event yesterday was that it being, I feel like it being in Manhattan, there really was not much of a spillover crowd outside of the Hilton. And I think that's because most of the voters in the Manhattan area were probably Clinton voters. And we saw that at the Javits Center.
And the folks
our
you
colleague
talked
Joan
to
Salzman went to the Javits Center, and that was a pretty heavy spillover crowd.
Yes. But the folks you talked to, they weren't from Manhattan, right? They were from
One of them that I talked to was from, I think it was Ridgefield, Connecticut, and the other one was from the Boston area.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I did get to chat to, 2 people, and they were slightly, out of the area, but it's worth mentioning that Trump intentionally had, a smaller event with the Javits Center. That place was packed. Obviously, Clinton was expecting things to go differently, and sometime around 2 a.m, they just told everybody to leave.
Yeah,
they're not going to say anything.
More questions about visas, stuff we really can't answer. Not our forte.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have anything
really
about
unclear.
Yeah, I mean, we're not political analysts. We are involved in the tech side of things for this. So if you have questions about social media accounts and how different media outlets have played into this year, it has been an utterly fascinating 10, 11 months, really, the way things
It's more than that, right? It's been like
especially in the final sprint here, where network coverage has branched off to incredible new, interesting ideas we've never seen before. The live blog fact checking, I thought was fantastic. That was really.
Well, it's the fact that like Twitter basically had its most active night ever. I think with like two of those debates.
And then last night, 75 million tweets about the election from Tuesday going into early Wednesday.
I don't think I tweeted about it last night.
I did a little. At 3 a.m, I mentioned that the Simpsons are always right because they called a Trump presidency.
Did they?
Yeah, yeah. In just one random episode, yes, they are an incredibly prescient show. Still
relevant after all these years. How long has it been?
30 years.
30 years,
it's going to be 30 years.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about The Simpsons.
Is Donald Trump going to increase taxes on kebabs? I hope not.
That would be a pretty highly unlikely
horrible
move.
I think people would riot in the streets.
Also, could you imagine passing a tax on like a single food type?
Right. We would just have to like take it off of
not even like a category, not even like beverages or lunch meat, like kebabs only. Like seems unlikely.
It seems unlikely.
But then again, everything's been pretty unlikely and improbable with this election.
Go on out on a limb and say no, there's not going to be a tax on kebabs.
Thank God. I don't think I could handle that.
But yeah, one other aspect that might actually be interesting. You remember several months ago, you wrote a story about what it would mean if Apple brought back some of its factory jobs or some of its manufacturing to the U.S. and what that would actually do to iPhone prices. And at first blush, it sounded like your iPhone would then be 2 or 3 times the current price.
At least a conservative estimate that I got from analysts was at least double the price, but that's really, really conservative.
Right. Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, obviously, U.S. laborers are going to be paid more hourly than Chinese laborers in China.
And there's also the cost of ramping up a facility like that, right? Like, we don't have anything close to what, say, Foxconn has in terms of the ability to build, like, millions upon millions of phones like that to go, right? And
well, we don't even have the labor force.
We don't have the labor force. We don't have
the skill set. We don't have the facilities. So that is a potential put up or shut up moment for Trump.
It's definitely one of the big campaign. We're going to bring jobs back. Yeah, he never really answered that.
Like
how
are
we
going to actually
specifically? He wants to say he says he wants to keep jobs here, but there's a big difference between
which is a little bit easier to do.
But
I might argue
it's a big difference from bringing jobs back, bringing manufacturing back, and it's the president. President of the United States is the most powerful man in the world, but even they would be it would be a challenge for them to force a company like Apple to change its entire strategy.
Look, it's always been interesting to me that Intel has maintained its factories in the U.S. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact of they want to protect their patents, but and they don't want to send them over. Anyway, we have a question.
Do you think in the next 4 years we could use social media to vote?
No. We had this discussion the last couple of days. I don't.
We already had enough Harambe write-ins.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster, right? Yeah. Like social media it's a great place for communication and sharing ideas, but it's also a great the bastion of trolls and.
Well, I think online voting still isn't a thing at all.
No, it's not. We talked about the fact that the idea of having an app, allowing us to vote via app, that's still not the great. Like I think it means something that we actually have to go through the effort of like getting to a polling place and voting.
It's worth arguing the point for like low tech at this point because more than 100 million people voted in early voting and on election day. So I'm not going to say that everybody that wanted to vote voted. Obviously there are probably people that.
My point is, if you make the voting process too easy, then you just invite trolls and pranksters, like more so than ever. Like there might have been a fair share of troll voting for this election, but people actually had to go out and get to the polls and do it, or send a absentee ballot.
Yeah, so I wouldn't really expect that anytime soon.
Is Donald Trump going to be the new host of Apple Bite?
I think he's a little busy now, right?
Being the incoming president, the president-elect, we'd love to have him.
Sure.
He's welcome to come on
Be a
Apple
guest.
Bite or on
or this podcast.
or on the 359.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd be interested in asking you about visas.
Well, and tech, actually, I would love to have him on to talk about tech because he's made a lot of comments that sort of betray the fact that he doesn't know as much about tech as maybe he should in terms of I don't think he uses a computer. When he talked about shutting down parts of the internet that's controlled by ISIS, right? He references the cyber. I mean, there's some things he has to get up to speed on in terms of technology because tech is a huge issue in this country, whether it's an engine for growth or whatever. And Trump has to get on top of some of these things.
I agree with you. However,
he'll hire the right people to get on top of it for him.
Hopefully, yes. But I mean,
he's definitely shown an instinct for social media. I'll give him
for
that
sure,
a
absolutely.
lot.
He's savvy on social media, but when it comes to things like how the internet works, he doesn't know how it works. So
yeah,
here's a good segue.
Fun about that.
Could Trump demand Google or Facebook turn over private chats in order to prosecute someone?
Very interesting question.
I mean, I feel like that kind of happens already, right?
To an extent,
the FBI already does it,
right?
So,
but would he hold authority to make that? Or would he have to go through?
I think he'd have to go through
departments.
Congress.
I don't know why the president would do that directly.
I think
there's a lot of things you could ask why someone would do.
So when the whole Apple versus FBI thing, ultimately that was going to go to court. One of the other solutions that was floated back then was a law passed by Congress that would give some clarity as to what Apple could or couldn't do in terms of disclosing customer information. So.
And that never actually came to pass.
It never came to pass because the FBI backed down. But it's hard for me to see like Trump or any president taking that direct role. Like I feel like it would be Congress's role to kind of have that kind of mandate up.
Here's some good questions. Since Apple is an American company and Samsung is Korean, could Trump's trade policies have an impact on the smartphone market?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
he's been very upfront about
if he actually manages to change some of the trade laws that are trade pacts that are in place.
One could argue that he would try to make it more difficult for Samsung to import phones, and argue that they need to do at least more of the parts manufacture or like the construction of the phones on U.S. soil.
Right.
I know that a lot of automotive companies do that already because that's more difficult to ship.
Yep.
That being said, I don't. It's going back to the same point that we made already, is that it's very hard to build those factories, create that labor force.
Yep.
That's something that does take an extraordinarily long time. But I think that's a really good question, and it really speaks to, well, where do we go from here? And a lot of people don't know.
And a lot of the automakers, speaking of the automakers, I mean, their facilities aren't here. They're in Mexico.
Some of them, yeah.
There's a huge hub for manufacturing.
Oh, absolutely.
Is Trump going to demand that gets all moved back to the U.S.? Or
It's again, a point that he made a central part of his campaign was trade policies, bringing jobs back to America. And I think that's one of the central promises from his campaign that
does he walk back NAFTA?
He's going to have to. Yeah. He didn't say he was going to walk back NAFTA. He said he was going to try to revise NAFTA. I don't know enough about NAFTA to actually know what that means.
Right.
So
nobody does.
I just know it's the
at least we don't, because we're not experts at all.
I just know it's the worst deal ever.
According to Trump.
Yes. Trump has a huge iPhone and tiny hands. This just in, the Canadian government has decided to move an army of beavers to build a dam separating Canada and United States.
These are good non-violent comments.
Yeah,
I'll take it. We need to laugh today. It's been a very rough couple of days, regardless of your affiliation. It has been a nail biter.
It was a long night last night, and it's been kind of a terrible, horrible election for anybody. Really.
Yeah. I on my
the
way
vitriol on both sides. It's just I'm glad. At least to that point, I'm glad it's all over.
I actually had a great conversation with a guy that runs a shoe shine station on 47th and 6th on my way to the Trump rally. And he said that what he'd been hearing from customers all day was that folks just want it to be over.
Yeah.
They almost don't even care.
Yeah.
They didn't care like who was going to win, whatever, but they just wanted it to be over. And in certain ways, it's a good thing that it's not a close election. We're not waiting for the lawyers to get involved. Like this was decisively in Trump's hands.
Well, from an electoral college perspective.
But I think that the voters would have been really upset and annoyed if this somehow dragged on into courts, kind of
this
like
became an
Bush
Al
v.
Gore. Yeah, for sure. The hanging Chad moment.
Yeah, as much as I miss hanging Chads.
What are your personal opinions on the social media effect? Do you think it killed this election specifically? Is the question in the
I wouldn't
in the
say
chat?
it killed. I mean, I think it transformed the way the election worked, and I don't think it's a positive or negative thing. I think it's just the way it is. It's the way the world is now. We live our lives on social media, and it's natural for something as high profile as the election to follow suit, right?
The thing that I find fascinating about this is how Trump really rewrote the social media playbook for any given politician. Yeah. And the question is are other folks going to follow in his footsteps, or is there going to be a realization that he's like a one-off figure that can actually, he's the only one that can actually do this, and everybody else would be considered, like this would be too many gaffes for anybody else.
Bringing it back to the business and tech world, I mean, you could draw similar comparisons to T-Mobile CEO John Legere.
Totally.
Who I'm sure he's going
to a much lesser extent.
I'm sure he's going to hate that comparison because he hates Trump and has been very vocal against him. But he's used social media in a really savvy way. He's been able to kind of connect to individual customers in an authentic way, and that's definitely
renegade telco,
right? And that's
CEO.
Helped the T-Mobile brand so much. Definitely rejuvenated it and got it past the point where you kind of look at the other carriers as he presents them as stuffy carriers, right?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting parallel. And granted, sorry about the comparison, John.
Yeah, sorry, John. That's I'm sure you're
due to your politics.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point, actually, and it speaks to the point that like if somebody else wanted to do that in the telco world, let's say, wouldn't they just be considered? Wouldn't they just be considered like a copycat, or would it actually work? I think it's a dodgy move.
It depends on the execution for sure. Like if you can come out, I feel like if you're authentic about your presence on social media, which Trump, for better or worse, has been, I think, and same with John Legere. That's effective. Like if you go on Twitter and you follow the playbook, or if you try to be loose with Twitter, or you try to have fun, and it doesn't come off as authentic, like people turn on you really quickly.
Sure, I would throw out this argument that is it authentic when Trump does it, or is it an act that looks authentic? I'm not suggesting one or the other.
Maybe it's a really good act. I mean, he was on TV for many years, so. Who knows?
Let's bring it home with a little bit of prediction on what tech and social media impact will continue to have going forward in the political spectrum. Do you think we could get VR rallies?
Oh, yeah.
That'd be kind of cool, right?
Yes. Yeah.
VR rallies. I mean, I think social media is going to continue to play a huge role there. Live streaming.
We wonder about the wavering Twitter and how, if that'll phase out,
what'll take its place. If it's not Twitter, it's something else. It'll be Snapchat.
Yeah,
it'll be some other network.
How do you
wonder
snap
if this
for
was
politics?
I wonder if this was
They'll
peak
figure
Twitter.
it out.
Yeah, I'm
for
sure.
I think that this might have been like Twitter's like biggest hurrah. Like that it was basically a presidential candidate that's become president-elect did it in many ways through Twitter. So I don't know that we'll ever see that again.
All right, let's wrap things up. If you liked anything you saw here or heard here, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Ben Fox Rubin. Thanks for listening.
You can catch our podcast on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Feedburner, and Google Play Music. See you tomorrow.
Peace.
Channeling Alfred now.